Hello and welcome. Your commentator today is Lucas Aid, and we are at the hallowed Silverstone turf today. This is the premier tier of the Performance Racing League round 10, and we join midway through qualifying. A few technical issues and also the delayed finish of the quite crazy Grand Prix in reality that we just witnessed at Singapore. But back to this qualifying session at hand. So we've seen some pretty good lap times already. Kachu with the 1:35.250, currently with provisional pole position. Jer, the guy that's really trying to dominate and win this season, in third in the Mercedes, very close behind, 3 tenths off. And we're kind of just awaiting to see who can react and respond, and we'll most likely see a shootout towards the end. Also good to see a few newer drivers coming through from kind of tier 1. So Suzuki is making an appearance, which is really cool. Also Stein, the league owner, setting a great lap in the AlphaTauri, a 1:35.838. So let's follow Dr. Fleek with a 1:35.1. Amazing. So he'll be coming in. Great lap. Victor looks like he's just run a little bit wide. Also has a fuel warning, so he'll most likely be coming in. As we see, as I said, a lot of the drivers now coming in. Stein will most likely be the next driver to set a hot lap. He's just gearing up. What a great section of a racetrack this is. So hard to get the balance of that car correct. Definitely a good race setup helps so much through that section. You can gain almost a second, I think, with a good setup and good tyres versus bad. Also, tyre temperatures playing a massive part. So notice the guys are on inters, like crazy hard conditions. Interestingly, Kachu set his 1:35.2 on softs. So it'll be interesting to see if it's a case of the conditions getting worse or better. To me, it looks like the rain is continuing, and you see people like Fleek running wide. So maybe, just maybe, these lap times we've seen may be the quickest. So it could be a little bit of an anticlimax, but we'll see. Let's follow Stein. Commits nice and early, misses the red sausage. You really want to miss that. You can spin quite easily. Good turn in. He seems to have a lot of grip, to be fair. Just better, just improves. 100th up. This hairpin, many different lines you can take through here, but I think in these sort of changeable conditions, sometimes it is better to slightly miss the apex, carry a little bit more speed, and then swing it around as he does. Living on the outer curb, running it across, best way to avoid track limits violations. Wow, a lot of confidence, so much confidence in these conditions on inters, riding up on the curbs, carrying a lot of speed, really maximising the track, and yeah, up or improves by 3 tenths. Great lap so far. Oh, and just goes a little bit too early on the power, a little bit too much steering angle, and pays the price. That's a shame. But he has time to go straight in the pits, go out and try again. Let's just hope the weather does not prevent a similar lap time to that being set. As we see, Callie's still sitting in the pits. And yeah, if you notice now, Kachu's fastest time is, well, he's on inters. So it looks like everyone is believing inters is the way to go, which tells me the track is actually going to become slower. But let's see. Let's see if anyone can beat this 35.0. Alright, who else is on track? So we've got 3 drivers on outlaps. Okay, now Callie apparently is on an outlap, and yet his car's in the garage. Don't know what that's saying. We've got Philip GT, a guy we haven't followed too much today, on his outlap. So it's going to be quite a nice little shootout for a couple of laps, I reckon. Suzuki just sitting in the pit. I assume he'll be coming out very shortly. Right, who is going to be first? Do you know what? Let's follow Philip. And let's try and take us through an entire lap. So already a little bit squirrely into that main section. has to lift off slightly. Into gear 8, which I'm surprised about, actually. Really keeping crazy high gears. Scared about traction. This is a very difficult track in the rain, actually. And yeah, the conditions really do seem to be getting worse. But he's up 2 tenths, so clearly pushing like crazy. That's always the interesting thing in changeable and wet conditions. Cars can look a bit messy and a bit untidy, but they set decent times. I mean, look at Charles Leclerc today or yesterday with his pole position lap. It didn't even look good, but he got the job done. The Mercedes kindly lets him through, and yeah, an interesting one because the game does not violate that, but of course we all know that that should be violated. But we'll stay with it. Oh, so nearly goes on the grass, but he's improved 4 attempts, probably with a mix of carrying a cheeky amount of speed, let's just say, in certain corners, and really pushing it on the edge. Now, will he attack the curb? He does. And yeah, waits a lot longer and stays in gear 6, so he keeps that stability in the car. Only very marginally misses the very inside of the apex. Smooth as you like on the outside, up to 6th, and just brings it home to take 7th with a 1:36.1. Great time. So Ger is actually slower. Victor looks like he's backed off, but Kachu has gone faster so far. Kachu in the Williams. Oh, and as I go on to him, it's so difficult on the exit. It is just, yeah, I do that all the time, especially in the wet. Philip GT, is he up? Wow, he's improved by 5 tenths, so he's still pushing on despite having low battery life. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments. I am surprised that there are only 13 drivers, I have to say. This is such a great track for racing. Oh, and Cali Rob with a 1:34.8 really has himself dialed in today. Great job. So yeah, he backs off. Just that Copse, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, it's just, what a section. Right, so we have Cali Rob still in the pits now. Dr. Fleek, here we go. This is it. 1 lap left, runs onto the gravel. Really trying to minimise that angle in the first turn. I don't think that will work, but I don't think he'll lose too much time either. And the tyres look nice and clean. Brings the car very wide and then turns it in. I've noticed not all the drivers do that. Just improves, great time. I actually saw Dr. Fleek in a practice race yesterday and he was rapid. I mean, our fastest times, I think we both did medium hard. His fastest time was maybe a tenth quicker than me, but his actual race pace was insane. Just so much consistency. Ooh, and he invalidates. Yeah, and that's why some people opt for, let's just say, some cheeky tactics there. Jesse backing off. Philip's up 6 tenths. So I don't know if the track's improving or if he's just dialing in. But yet again, let's just stay on board with Philip, see how he does. Oh, and all 6 tenths will have gone there. That's a real shame. And Bank, how's he doing? This was our Baku winner, don't forget. Through Copse. Now, the reputable Maggots and Beckett's, how will he take it? Slightly wider line in. A bit, I'd say a bit more cautious just in general. Completely misses the curb. I think that's just understeer rather than intentional. About the same time, it doesn't look like it's going to trouble the leaders. Philip's still up 2 tenths, so yeah, he did lose time from that mistake we saw, but... And again, interesting tactics. But this is the thing with the game, when you're in the wet, the way the game's programmed, it's all on time deltas. So it fails, let's be blunt, it fails to pick up on issues in the wet. Philip with a 1:35.6 in 6th place. And yet, yeah, 4 temps up. Wow, what a cracking end to qualifying here. And this is PRL. It's round 10. We're at Silverstone, and this is the Premier League. These are the best drivers. We only have 13 today, but these are 13 of the best drivers we have in the whole league. And yeah, we're at 5th place, a 1:35.286 as Victor bails out and aborts, but has a 2nd place finish. So it looks like that will be it. That will round off our qualifying session today. A great session, some great times in difficult conditions. It'll be interesting to see what the weather is like in the race. I actually don't know right now. I might message and find out. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of setups these guys were using. Were they using fast setups? Were they using wet setups? I mean, it's very fascinating. But whilst we wait for the last drivers to trickle through, okay, they've gone through. Let's run through the order. Cali Rob takes pole position in the Alpha with a 1:34.844. Victor, very, very close behind, 2 tenths off in the Ferrari, rounds off the top row in 2nd place. Dr. Fleek, a great job from the Tier 1 guy, 3rd place and only 3 tenths behind. Kachu takes 4th. Ger, with maybe a slightly disappointing performance from his standards, but will be nonetheless happy with 5th in the Mercedes. Philip GT, with the interesting laps in 6th place. Stein, making a slight little mistake on board with a good lap, but I think he ended up recovering a little bit, but only takes 7th. Jesse takes 8th in the Mercedes. Ankbank, the winner of Baku, as we said, in 9th, but should be quite happy with that, I'd imagine. And then quite a big gap, it has to be said, Turtle Hopper in 10th in the Haas, so really struggling with the setups. Maybe these guys are running more dry setups. Adrian and Destroyer round off the finishers, and I believe Suzuki was in last place, having not set a lap time. Okay, so we're going to take a 2-minute break, and then when we return, we will witness the formation lap and hopefully a fantastic race today at Silverstone. Hello and welcome back. Just a very brief update in response to some of the questions. It will be a dry race, so this may explain some of the discrepancies in the lap times, because of course when you're running a super fast setup for the dry conditions in an intermediate condition qualifying, it really does test these drivers to the limit, and that's probably why you saw slightly more discrepancy than normal. But yeah, the race is going to be quite interesting. I'd assume everyone on the grid has recognise the fact it will be a dry race, and they should therefore be running their standard setups, which to be honest will make it easier for them. I think they'll be quite happy about that. It also means great action should be in store for us, as a few drivers may be a little bit out of position. I can think of a few names, but we'll wait and see, and hopefully there'll be some great overtakes. But we'll be back in about 1 minute. Hello and welcome back to the Performance Racing League Premier Tier Silverstone Grand Prix. It's round 10 and the race will shortly commence with the formation lap. Let's take a little look at the standings. Unfortunately, the Premier standings are not reflective of the very last event at Canada, but it is reflective of the second last event at Azerbaijan, Baku. And right now Ger is leading by 61 points with 265 over Victor on 204. There's then about a 40-point gap to Adri in third with 158. Ankbank in fourth with 155, so super close there for third place. A small little gap down to Kachu in fifth in the Williams with 129. Tambar in the Aston is in sixth with 123, so very close. Only I think 4 points between them. If I can do maths, maybe not. 6 points between them. And Boaz is in seventh in the Red Bull with 114. So a lot of the drivers are in contention for at least up to sort of third place. I would say at this point, you know, first and second are slowly starting to pull away a little bit. But it's only round 10. And I believe we still have another 10 or 11 races afterwards. I think 11 races after this one. So anyone really can win at this point. It's not like anyone has completely run away with it. And actually looking at the form, Ger's last three finishes between Spain and Baku was 6th, 4th and 9th. Again, I can't comment on Canada because I don't have the stats. But yeah, a slight little drop off there. Victor, meanwhile, with the 7th, 1st and 7th. And Ankbank with a 1st, a DNF and a 1st. So some pretty fascinating results, it has to be said. I certainly wouldn't want to bet any of my money on who's going to take this championship. And I think that's a really good thing. And Cali Rob, you know, Cali Rob's best finish so far this season was 9th at Australia. And now has the chance not only to enjoy this pole position, but maybe to even get a first win of the season. Of course, it's a very long race. And as I said, I think a lot of these drivers have been geared up for a dry race and are very practiced in dry conditions. So I think we'll see some differentials. But nonetheless, it's really exciting. And hats off to the Alfa Romeo driver there. What a job. And as we say that, the aforementioned Cali Rob is now approaching the start of the race. Looks like one car may have had a bit of an accident or a collision, so he was forcefully placed onto the grid. Let's see how Cali lines up. Looks pretty much spot on. Very good. Victor may have just accidentally overshot his box, so we'll get kind of a penalty in the form of dropping back. So if you notice the second place Ferrari, it's just a little bit back. But anyway, that should be now all 13 drivers. Yep, Suzuki's lined up. We're ready to go. 5 lights. And they're out. Let's go. It's Premier Tier. Here we go. Silverstone. Cali Rob, not such a good start, and Victor takes the inside, and also will Ger go down the inside? Yes, he will. He's going to give a really hard time to Cali Rob, runs it along the outside, and he's now going to dive down into turn 3. And yeah, he does that. Quite hard to defend. Cali Rob tries to run it on the outside, but can't quite do enough with his pace, and Ger just shuts the door. We already have a safety car. What have I missed? Have I missed something? Is it a virtual? Oh, it looks like Dr. Fleek. What happened to Dr. Fleek? I completely missed that. It must have been out of shot because the broadcast view just did not give us enough insight there. But, oh, that's such a shame. So Dr. Fleek is out, and it's a VSC, not an SC. So we will get up to speed fairly shortly. But what a shame, because Dr. Fleek set a brilliant lap time, the Tier 1 guy. And already it's over for him. What a shame. Cali Rob drops down to third, as we said. That's probably the biggest story. Cher will be so happy with that. Already up to second. I think when we were saying earlier about who would probably have a bit of a differential in the dry conditions, Cher was certainly top of my list, and he's proven that in the space of 3 corners. So very impressive indeed. Kachu 4th and Ankbank in 5th, so these 2 drivers in particular will be quite happy. So far it's been a clean race. I didn't see what happened with Dr. Fleek, I have to say, but so far so good. And look how close these drivers are together. Kachu with the interesting sort of imitation move there. So let's take a little look. We have Suzuki up 4 places, of course, starting last. Ger up 3, as we said, making great moves. And just Cali Rob dropping down second. Otherwise, everyone's pretty much in position, just with Dr. Fleek's issue or something that happened at the start. Oh, and Ankbank has dropped down. What happened to Ankbank? Oh, what a shame. So Ankbank, the guy that's won, I think, 2 races out of the last 3 events, has now dropped down into essentially last place of the runners. And again, apologies, some slight issues with the deltas. Hopefully that will fix itself, but you can see for your own eyes, these cars are super close. And Victor, what a great job to take the early lead, conserve the battery in some ways, but at the same time try and push to get out of DRS range. That will certainly be his #1 objective, and he has until the end of this lap to do so. Let's see if we can try and fix the times. Can I fix the times? Unfortunately not. So we have to hope that fixes itself. It's hard to say if he's in DRS range or not. Let's run on board with Ger. Also Steinmine and Jesse. Look how close these guys are. I want to say that Victor might just be over a second ahead right now. Just. And look at Steinmine, wow, goes for that move, has to back off though, doesn't quite have enough of a window, and has a little twitch of oversteer and has to run it off the track. Oh, and we have a yellow. Is that Ankbank that spun again with hot tyres? Yes it is, what a shame. But let's jump back. Victor with the fastest lap of the race. Stein really building up some momentum here against Philip GT. But Jesse is also lingering behind. Now notice, whilst these cars have a high fuel load, they are running that first corner in 7th gear. That's how much of a difference it makes when you've got worse tyres and a heavy car and a track that hasn't been entirely bedded in. So Ger is within DRS range, that's the key thing. Very clean, cuts the apex a little bit more than Victor does. And then Victor runs a lot wider, so you're actually seeing two conflicting driving styles here, but they're both almost as quick. Ger may be making up just under a 10th by electing to go his route. And Calirob just slowly dropping off a little bit, which is playing into Kachu's hands, because really at this, well, it's kind of a two-pronged issue. So Kachu would like Calirob in some senses to stay within the DRS zone because he doesn't want to lose track of first and second. But then on the flip side, if Calirob does drop behind, suddenly the overtake becomes much, much easier due to the DRS only being in his hands and not Calirob's. Steinmine closing in yet again on Philip, but can't quite get the move done. It'll be interesting to know if there are different setups at play. And is that Destroyer? Destroyer takes a trip to the old school pit lane. What is now almost like the club level pit lane. What a shame. And again, Steinmine is the one. And yeah, you can really see Kachu is starting to build up a lot of pace and close in on Calirob. But fair play to Calirob, he's closed in on Ger. So I wonder if Ger made a mistake or if Victor and Ger had a little bit of a fight. But suddenly Ger is looking hot for this race lead. It's honestly just great listening and watching the cars through there. A great, great sequence of corners, it has to be said. Through Woodcote. And again, hugging the outside. Oh, running slightly wide, but just lifts off enough to avoid any track limits issues. But yeah, we'll lose a little bit of time, as you can see in the Delta. I want to say the Cher may be running a slightly higher speed setup, but only slightly. And Calirob has really closed up. What a great performance after the difficulties at the start to get himself back in contention, not just for second place, but for the race win. And that's one of the great things about these sorts of tracks. There's plenty of runoff. Oh no, and as we switch to Philip, the guy that did often push his luck, let's say, in the qualifying, has pushed his luck maybe for the last time today. And unfortunately takes a little trip into the barrier. What a shame. We're getting questions about tyres, and I'm more than happy to show you. So we've got, at the moment, oh no, and Calirob has dropped it on the hards, so maybe these setups, they've got a lot of tyre pressures potentially, they're just putting a little bit too much heat into them, and they're dropping it, because that is a common place to drop the car when you've got tyres that aren't playing ball. Recovers it into 7th though, that is one of the great things about spinning there. I actually spun there at a race yesterday, and I only lost 3 seconds. Because as long as you right your car, you're already in a slow speed section. But what a shame. So it's a bit of a gauntlet yet again here in Premier Tier. It's just harking back a little bit almost to the Baku time when I last commentated in this division. But Cher is keeping it clean on the mediums. We have, I think it's Destroyer who's having to now wait for everyone to go past. How terrifying. Good thing it's not reality, because we would have to probably put a safety car out just for that. And Cher, yeah, closing in on Victor. on the mediums. So the only driver in the top 6 on hards is Kachu, which, to be honest, is what we would have expected. I think most people would almost unanimously agree the best strategy here is medium, then onto hard. But so far, no safety cars have come out, and that will certainly be good news for Kachu. Very late on the brakes, and really tries to close up, but slightly compromises his line. Oh, and just onto the sausage on the exit. And yeah, loses a bit of time from that. Steinmine loving it, now closes up. What a great race we have so far. These are some phenomenal drivers. Look how close they are with their pace. Turtle Hopper is... Okay, no, the delta must have just changed. I reckon Turtle Hopper went for a move and it slightly failed. But here we go, Steinmine at almost the back of the train is in contention. But it looks like these setups are very similar and these drivers are so evenly matched right now. I wonder who's looking after the tyres. For me, this is a great opportunity to exhibit those sort of tyre conservation skills. Maybe try and go for either an overcut or just simply overtake someone once their tyres deteriorate before yours. We're only on lap 6 and I'm expecting these medium tyres to last until around lap 13, lap 12. Maybe even lap 14 if people are ballsy, but I would doubt that. Stein using every little millimetre of track at his disposal, without running onto the grass. Wow. So we approach lap 7 and we have a top 5 who are super close and a 6th place driver who we know has phenomenal pace and should actually catch up despite being on the hard tyre, which proves just how quick he is. Suzuki in 7th now. He's making his way up from the last spot on the grid, which was, I believe, only 13th. But nonetheless is doing really well. Then we've got a slight little gap down to Adrian in 8th in the Ferrari, who's just taken a little... Oh no, not an excursion. That's just my eyes deceiving me. He's looking good. Turtle Hopper, I think one of the, let's just say, mistake-having drivers so far in 9th. And Banku had that little spin earlier, down in 10th. And Destroyer, who's had a multitude of incidents, it's just not been his day. It happens to all of us. And he's unfortunately down in 11th in the Haas. But he hasn't DNF'd, so he's already 1 point off the top 10, or 1 place off the top 10. That is one good thing, actually. And I think there can be a mentality change. I try not to make the mentality change, but if I'm honest, when I know the grid's not as big, I do take slightly more risks. Because if you gain a few seconds and then make a little mistake, it's not the end of the world when there's only 13 cars on the grid. But back to this top 5 shootout, this early stint shootout. So Jesse's just staying in contention. I don't think he has the raw pace to make a move, if I'm honest, based on what I've seen. But his pace is really solid and he's not made any mistakes. And he's getting lots of DRS help, so he should hopefully be able to now charge his battery up and prepare an assault later on. Steinmine, almost unfortunate at this point now not to have got past Kachu. I think he is slightly faster, but only marginally, and it's just not quite happening. Notice now, the drivers are, well, some of the drivers are electing to go into gear 8 through turn 1. So already that fuel being burnt off and the track getting bedded in is making a slight difference to lap times. And again, maybe we'll be able to see just how these drivers take this section of the track a little bit differently. So into Luffield, a fantastic corner. And yeah, you see the slightly narrower line. Cher this time losing out because I think he had a little, very minuscule issue on the exit. Steinmine just slowly falling off, but at this level of racing, it really comes down to fine margins. You know, just one slight late turn and a slight lack of speed for a corner and you lose a couple of attempts. But they're fast enough to make it up. You know, these guys are crazy good. What a race we have in store. Here we go. Let's ride on board with Victor. We've not seen Victor for a while. Leading the race. Great job. Lap 9 now. Notice Victor has the fuel saving logo, which means that he's just on the limit. I actually saw it flash on and off. So there's a small chance that, yeah, he's on the limit. He's on a 0-0-0, which, well, it's perfection really, isn't it? So that's not a problem. And wow, still 5 drivers super close to each other in this DRS train and the fight for the win here at Silverstone. And hats off to Jesse because he's now made his way slightly closer to Stein. And Suzuki is really closed up on Rob. Wow. Will he go for the move? I think he will. He will. Dives it down. Keeps it nice and smooth on the inside. Runs onto the curb as much as possible. And now he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. Ooh, Rob might be a little bit upset about the outside being squeezed. But Suzuki was ahead. And overall, a great move. A great move. And Suzuki takes 6th position from last. Rob must be a bit disappointed, but at the same time he's on hards, whereas Suzuki is on the medium tyre, so it's not the end of the world. I think they should probably try and use each other as a DRS train and really just try and catch up, because they have the potential and the ability to catch up to this train and make the race even more entertaining. Oh no, Victor, I just caught it at the end. Just had a little twitch on the back end, a snap oversteer. Oh my word, and Kachu also has snap oversteer on the exit of Luffield. And Victor says, thank you so much, I may have made a mistake, but I will already go back into 2nd. But who is the guy winning? Who is the guy leading yet again? It's Cher. We know he has phenomenal pace in the dry on this track. And I think that's why you saw a slight difference between qualifying and the race. But wow, and you know what, even better, with a good exit here and deploying the battery, which he intelligently does, he would have gained a 2nd. However, Victor's not silly. Victor has aced his exit through Beckett's and just, well, yeah, he's kept himself within a 2nd. So he's smart enough not to mess up there. Well done. Oh, is that Steinmeier making him... Oh, so Jer's pit. Okay, good. Slightly missed that. I had to look away from the screen for just a second and already things are happening. So Steinmeier and Jer pit. They are the ones that pit on lap 11. So I did say probably lap 12, maybe lap 13, but they're pitting just a little bit earlier. Maybe a little bit conscious of an undercut. Maybe their tyres are slightly dropping off onto the hard tyre that will comfortably see them through to the end of the race. But so let's see how Victor responds, because Victor is not out of this race. It was a very small mistake and recovered it really well. So Kachu just behind, enjoying the DRS. Jesse has now fallen out of DRS with all the craziness that's gone on, most likely because the cars just in front of him in the sandwich have pit. And Suzuki has unfortunately picked up, I believe, a 3-second penalty. Let's just take a little look and find out. Yeah, 3-second penalty for track limits. So that will not be great for him, but still, in terms of pace, it's looking very good. And very nice and early into 6th gear through Chapel. And Victor dives into the pits, as does Jesse, but Kachu on the hard tyres, of course, is staying out. And we have to say, what a great drive from Kachu so far, because he's been fighting with the top guys, he's been up there, he's now leading the race, having only been just a few tenths off the lead, but he's on the hard tyre. You know, it's hard not to say that Kachu is not potentially one of the favourites, if not the favourite now, to take home the win. As we see Victor, Jesse and Suzuki all exit the pits. Adrian is the last runner, so clearly the way these guys are fighting and driving so hard, they are burning through the tyres. So at the moment the only driver to still be on the mediums is Adrian, and I'm assuming we'll box on lap 12. I believe that's when I tried to box. But yeah, these guys kind of maybe proving that lap 11 is the way to go. As Jer, something's happened here. So Jer's made the move on Jesse, but I'm pretty sure Jer was always ahead of Jesse. So looks like some interesting shenanigans out of the pits. Apologies for missing that. And Jesse just gets squeezed out by Steinmine. So fantastic job from Stein. So we were just talking about the undercut, and we did slightly miss the action, unfortunately. But as you can see, the undercut there with, I believe, Stein and Jer pitting early has paid off. So you have Stein and Jer ahead of Jesse and Suzuki. Victor, meanwhile, though, look at this. Has anyone noticed the big news? So Victor ahead of Jer. So despite that mistake in Luffield, Victor has done a phenomenal job, an absolutely amazing job, and has managed to stick it out ahead of Jer. So, wow, what a race we have on our hands. I think Jer will be quite annoyed about that, if we're honest. He must have lost some time somewhere. Was it maybe just a mistake? It must have been maybe to do with the fighting he had on the exit. I don't know. We'll have to hopefully view some POVs later on after the race. Jer runs it wide, says this is my corner. Victor is going to maintain the track as much as he can. Jer says no, this is my line now. But, you know, he has to give a little bit of space. But yeah, good car control from Jer. He knows he could turn in, and maybe with the assistance of his rear view camera, to be honest. But was able to just cut in front of Victor, and is now in the lead pack of these runners on the hard stint. Meanwhile, don't forget Kachu. So look at the gap. Currently over 30 seconds. Really, I know that Silverstone has a crazy long pit stop. It's close to 30 seconds. But this is fantastic news for Kachu. The only question that remains is when will he elect to pit? As we watch Jer and Victor, so will Victor try and fight back? This time Victor takes a tighter line through Luffield. And we've got Steinmine just behind. What a race we have on our hands. These guys so close together, and the finest of margins are differentiating them through this pit stop phase. Now there should be no more pit stops, bearing in mind, or assuming there are no more safety cars or no issues. So really what you're seeing here is a straight out sprint race at this point to the checkered flag for most likely P2, maybe P1. But look at that. Kachu sets the fastest lap on 13 lap old hards. It has to be said, he's probably looking like he deserves the win at this point. But Jer is conscious and fighting back. And look at that, Victor on the outside. Now Jer has to be careful not to squeeze him too far. Puts his hands up on the left to apologise. Does he apologise? We don't know. Turns it left down into the left right of Sector 3. He's going to now close off Victor as much as he can without making contact. How will this end? Let's watch on board from Steinmine. Now, this time Jer has to give it. It has to give in and allow that car to maintain position of Victor. And Steinmine now really closing up on Jer, only 1/10 behind, and we're approaching a DRS zone. Needs to really ace these next two corners. Gets a great turn in, and maybe slightly slow on the exit from the angle, but we'll see. I think it's just going to be a DRS train, unfortunately. So positions maintained, but look how close they are. And yet again, Jesse just staring at the back. We'll be really hoping one of them messes up, or maybe one crashes into the other. Oh, look at this. Jer maybe not carrying as much speed, but really focusing on exit, which is the proposed and best way to take Luffield, according to most people. But Stein is really hanging it in there, really taking a narrow line, but still getting a good exit. So great driving from Stein. And let's just watch these cars through Magus, Beckett's and Chapel. And we have a yellow flag. Is that Destroyer? We'll stay on board. We'll stay on board. We don't want to miss anything. But something has happened. Right, let's bounce off. I think it was Turtle Hopper. Okay, Destroyer's at a spin. A difficult day. A difficult day for the Haas boys. And Turtle Hopper picks up a 3-second. But notice these top 6 runners, other than Jesse, have not picked up any time penalties. So right now it's looking like a 5-way shootout, and you'd have to say most people's money will be on Kachu. And actually, that's a really good point, it has to be said, because if you have one driver on an alternate strategy by himself, it often does work out because you don't lose time fighting with other cars. These guys, okay, yes, they are in a DRS train, and in theory that could help them, but it assumes that they don't fight and they don't make any mistakes, because of course if the lead car makes a little 2/10 mistake, inevitably the others will probably just lose the 2/10 rather than actually pulling a move off. And of course this all plays into Kachu's hands. He's now, I think in terms of where he was, I think he's actually improved his gap. It's, yeah, phenomenal driving. And here we go, Kachu dives in the pits. So what we'll do, we'll bounce over to, not Caddy Rob, but Victor. Because Caddy Rob is staying out, I believe. No, so they're both pitting. So we'll move over to Victor and see how he fares. Where does he come out in relation to Kachu? Or I should really say how far behind. But we'll see. So Victor through Chapel, now onto the back straight. So Kachu's already coming out of the pits. Victor, meanwhile, still has a whole corner to go. I think it's Kachu's, isn't it? It's just definitely Kachu's race from here. Look at this. So Kachu already comes out. And you can't even see Victor in the background. So what a great job from Kachu. A fantastic, fantastic stint. And it is race on, but yeah, with a guessable 5-second gap. But Cher is very much wanting to get back that place. I wonder, will Victor cave into the pressure as he did on the first stint? That was around Luffield. The entry to Luffield just had a slight moment. This is certainly one of the hottest parts of the racetrack where so many things can happen. And it has to be said, this corner here is so difficult to actually get right lap after lap. And yet again, you're seeing those differences in driving style. So Cher taking a slightly narrower line. Victor electing to go wider. Stein using as much of the curb as he can without hitting the sausages. Or maybe a slightly late turn in, but we're talking fine margins. So he's losing a little bit of time on Cher from that, but not a lot. Lap 16 now out of 26. It's F122. It's the Performance Racing League PRL, and we are at Silverstone for round 10. And it's the Premier League, which is the highest league of drivers. So Steinmeier doing an excellent job. He's had some real difficulties this season, but this race he's proving that he has race-winning pace. And notice now, and I always find this interesting, so Victor has, obviously these guys have switched onto the mediums, but notice they've already taken out almost a second on Kachu, who's on the medium. And I found this really bemusing because when I raced here yesterday in a practice event, I found that the hard tyre was not only easier to control temperature-wise, but was more consistent, and I even set my fastest lap by about 4/10 over the medium. So I was very confused by all of that. But it seems like the hard tyre does do very well around Silverstone, certainly with these new cars. Having said that, it may just have been a mistake from Kachu. I mean, you'd still expect the medium to be faster, at least for a solid few laps, 5 or 6 laps. And as you can see, the gap has now crept up over 5. So perhaps just a little mistake from Kachu in sector 1 or 2. As we see, so now it looks like Stein is really the aggressor. And Cher is having to really watch his mirrors. But the gap is just not quite long enough. I want to say Stein and Victor have a very slightly slower speed setup than Cher. This would be consistent with a lot of other events. So now Steinmeier picked up a penalty though. What a shame. I did not notice that. But to be honest with you, with this level of racing, when it's this close, that's the difference between a top 4 and like a top 6. What a shame. But without looking into the menus and the director's cuts, we can't see how many penalties the others have. I'd imagine that Cher has at least one that I think I noticed. But yeah, it's going to very much potentially come down to penalties at this point. What a great shot there into Luffield. so many drivers in close contention, really proving to themselves and to everyone why they belong in this elite tier. And of the drivers that have made some slight sort of mistakes, we've got Adrian. You know, Cali Robert is doing well, considering everything. I think he had one moment and then a small other moment. He's in 7th place on medium tyres and closing in on Suzuki. Really, Suzuki could have... I think Cali could have won this race. I've been there before, albeit in much lower tier races with slower drivers like myself. But I've been there where you know after the race, I should have won. I definitely should have won the race. I was quick. And he was catching guys on hard tyres despite his spin. So he's going to be quite upset with himself, it has to be said. But when you've got good pace like that and you're catching up despite everything, it's a good feeling. And he has no penalties. So it's looking to me like already, honestly, 4th place could be his if he plays his cards right. So we'll kind of watch as that situation evolves over the next 7 laps. We're getting some good shots today from the broadcast, despite the start being a little bit lackluster, with the camera not focusing enough. Seeing them go through Luffield. No one making a mistake that I've seen for a solid few laps, so everyone's really settling into their groove on these hard tyres. And let's just quickly bounce to Kachu. So he's improved his margin to 6.5 with the mediums, as you probably would have guessed. But certainly I did find that the hard stint was a lot better than anticipated when I raced here. So it'll be interesting to see, does the medium start to now tail off to more sort of neutrality with the hards? If it's going to happen, it will be probably next lap. And look at this, Suzuki is closing on Jesse. Great performance. Not quite enough to make a move though, and of course when you don't make the move in those moments, which he couldn't have done of course, it's so difficult to then stay on the back, and it is a cause of frustration in all motorsport. You just can't quite get the job done, as Turtle Hopper unfortunately picks up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. The good news for him, he doesn't care and he's retired. But of course retiring means no points, which is a real shame, Oh, I think it does mean points. I think it's 1 point for your first DNF, 2 for your second, but points that don't mean much. So yeah, Suzuki now is the challenger. Oh, look at it! Oh, what happened here? Did someone just spin? Was it Cher? Was there contact? I just missed it! I mean, there's not really more I can do when there's 6 drivers so close, but somehow I just missed it. All I know is that Suzuki and Stein were both really close to both Jesse and... I don't know, so did Stein make contact? I have no idea. It may just be that Cher finally got put under a heavy amount of pressure by Stein and then span. We'll have to kind of look through the debriefs after the race, I guess, but what a shame we slightly missed it. But nonetheless, Stein now up into a podium position for the first time in a long time. Really shining here today and showing great pace. And Jesse, as we said earlier, back all the way on sort of lap 4, sitting at the back of the DRS train, waiting for mistakes and then pouncing on them with some smooth driving. And now, yes, Suzuki is most likely being held up at this point on the mediums as he so nearly loses it on the last corner, but a great recovery spin. Wow. And we'll already close back up. But yeah, he's already won 3 attempts. So his strategy with the medium tyre is working out well. I have to say, based on this race, it seems like starting on the hard and going to the medium due to the lack of a safety car has actually paid off. And I'm a little bit surprised. I think it is mostly because of this train of cars fighting. Cher has recovered himself to 7th, so it looks like there's no wing damage that we can see. Hard to actually get the camera to kind of play ball on that. Yeah, it looks fine. So now Cher and Cali Rob, probably the 2 quickest drivers, along with Kachu, but they've both unfortunately had moments, which has really opened the door to, I would say, the 3rd of the really strong drivers today, which is Kachu, as I say, and he is leading by 6 seconds. What a performance. But honestly, this entire, like, I'm not saying this to be nice, the entire top 7, plus Dr. Fleek, had he not had his issue on the very first couple of corners, are showing tremendous pace. You could probably extend this race by another 30 laps and they'd still be within... Oh my word, so Suzuki's going on Jesse. Just slightly makes a bit of contact with the rear wheel. Really tries to... Oh, great move. Seriously, what a move. To pick up the throttle that early and keep the traction. Carry it. Now you know you've got the inside. You've got to be nice. But at the end of the day, if you carry enough speed through into that first apex, you can squeeze the car out. Jesse realises this, has to play ball. And Suzuki makes a fantastic 3-corner long move. And it all starts with carrying phenomenal speed through a very, very tricky corner indeed. The tricky corner being Stowe. I should really have said that. Excuse me. Oh, but Suzuki, he is prone to the odd spin, and I think that position's gone. If he holds this, I'll be super impressed. So Jesse forces Suzuki to the inside as much as possible. Suzuki is wise enough to understand it, and Suzuki slightly pushes his luck. I think that's exactly what Jer did, you know, from my peripherals. So he's under pressure, tries so hard to be clean, which obviously we want to see. We want clean racing, exciting racing. But once you go offline, when you're racing at these levels of performance, small margins of a couple of percentage points is the difference between living and dying, or in this case, winning and spinning. What a shame, because Suzuki has driven phenomenally. But now he falls in just behind the other two to have very similar fates of Kalilov and Cher. So with 4 laps remaining in this almost gauntlet style event, we have finally got to a stage where we don't have a 7-long car train, which is kind of disappointing, but I mean, what can you expect? These guys have served up a fantastic race. You really cannot ask for more. Victor 6 seconds behind. I don't think it's going to happen, let's be honest. But Steinlein, what a great performance. He's just held his nerve, put his car in the right places, been sensible, and is now in 3rd place in the AlphaTauri. Jesse 1.7 ahead. They both, I believe, have equal penalties. Let's just check. Oh my word, no they don't. Okay, I don't know how that's happened. So there's been a 5 second and a 3. So maybe there was a speeding in the pits. I missed this, and this changes a lot. Let's actually see how much it changes. So Jesse is due to now drop down at least 2 positions. In fact, pretty much just guaranteed 2 positions, because Suzuki in 7th has a 6 second penalty. So Kali and Cher, despite everything, will most likely be taking home 4th and 5th, which, well, it's a good result, all things considered. So Steinlein, with this knowledge in hand, you can almost say at this point, bar a mistake or a safety car, the top 3 is basically locked in. And I don't want to say that in a negative way. It's been a great race, but you're basically looking at the top 3 today, and what a great performance they've shown. And Caliroy is trying to get past Jesse anyway. I mean, if you can make a move, do it, just in case the penalties do get overturned. And I think Jesse running on the grass will spell the end of his tenure in 4th position. Yeah, Cali makes probably the easiest overtake we've ever seen in this race at this tier. That's how good these guys are. Just probably the first mistake I've seen actually through that chapel exit. Yeah, Suzuki may have had another spin down again. Oh, oh no, he's pit on softs, of course. Pit onto softs because he wants the fastest lap. Makes a lot of sense. I'd imagine all of these people will do that. I imagine Destroyer probably will. I imagine Ankbank will. But yeah, we'll see. It depends because, of course, Adrian and Ankbank, there's only a 6 second gap. So Adrian may be forced to stay on these softs, which are probably looking healthy anyway. Let's take a look. Yeah, he's got fresh rubber. So basically everyone, if they want to, is going to have a shot at the fastest lap, which will be quite fun to watch. The Steinlein is closing in on Victor, but most likely just because Victor's taking it easy and cruising home. And yeah, as we said, with these guys changing onto softs, Adrian takes the provisional fastest lap of the race. I'm sure Suzuki will be fighting back. Improves by 3 tenths so far. It's almost like a mini qualifying session amongst the race now that the order has essentially solidified itself. Yeah, so Jesse into the pits. So let's have a look at the intervals just to double check. So we've got, yeah, so he's essentially giving up the place to Ger because he knew he'd lost it anyway due to his penalties. So again, he gets to join the fray and have a shot with one hot lap. Makes sense. The only thing I would say is that, of course, if you do this and then you spin, you look like an idiot. So you have to, of course, not push it too hard and either DNF or spin and actually lose a position. But yeah, with this level of racing, you can understand. Oh, wow, my throat's actually a bit sore from this one. So Jesse, yeah, as we expected, out into 6th place with plenty of air. We'll just compare the penalties, just double check he's not messed up. No, only 2 seconds difference. And yeah, so 3 seconds there. So there's no danger. Okay. Yeah, we're kind of almost watching the homecoming laps. The processional finish, but what a great race we've been served today. Let's have a look at the fastest lap, seeing as that is now the thing everyone wants. So right now Suzuki with the 1:29.3 is the fastest lap. And let's just have a little final race overview situation. So Kachu making up 3 places with a fantastic first stint. He won the race on the hard tyres. He simply converted it with probably quite a very easy stint on the mediums to get the win. Victor with a little moment but some great battles and some great staying power is in 2nd place. Stein just being ever present, not making mistakes, putting his car in the right places at the right time, is looking set to take home 3rd place. But it has to be said, let's actually look at let's take off fastest lap. Oh, 1 second. So things have changed actually in the last lap. Good thing I am on it. So if you look at the penalties, Steinmine, who may have made a couple of mistakes recently, or maybe Callie has just gone mental with his pace. Oh no, that's a real shame. Okay, so Stein's just picked up another penalty. So right now I was about to say he's definitely going to lose a place to Callie Rob. That's basically set in stone. But now Ger must have, well, can Ger see this on his screen? Oh my word, it's going to be so close. We have to follow this to the finish. This is almost like for the win, or it feels like it. So will Stein take home 4th or 5th? It looks, oh my word, you can't call it. It's all going to come down to these last 2 corners. Look at it, Ger is absolutely attacking. He does know. He 100% knows. Oh no, just outside, and comes home in 5th by 1/100th of a second. So Steinmine takes home 4th. Callie Rob, honestly, what a performance from Callie Rob, to take home 3rd in the Alpha after everything. I do think he would have won this race had he not made a mistake. I think Kachu would have been right up there, but takes home the win in the Williams with a fantastic hard to medium strategy, staying out of the way. I remember he set the fastest lap of the first stint on a hard tyre. That really does say it all. Well deserved. Victor's 2nd place in the Ferrari. Another great result. And with Ger coming 5th, this really is starting to become a little bit of a swing, I would say. You know, Ger slowly missing out on podiums almost consistently now. So I think that the Premier Tier is going to shape up into a very interesting finish. So do stay tuned. The next race, of course, is in 7 days time, same place, same time. Suzuki with driver of the day. I can understand that. I mean, a great fight back from last place. Almost got fastest lap, some good overtakes. Just made that one mistake when he was defending from, I think, Jesse. That one spin, and that cost him from potentially a podium in his case. But what a race. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it today. This is the Performance Racing League. We've been at Silverstone for round 10, and this is the Premier tier, the highest tier of racing. But let's just quickly run you through the final finishing order. So Kachu takes home the win with a very well-deserved performance and a great best lap as well of a 1:29.7, and finishing 9 seconds ahead of second place Ferrari Victor, going with the medium hard strategy. A very solid result. Caddy Rob takes home third and rounds off the podium positions. Steinmeier with the unfortunate 3-second penalty that became a 6 as he pushed so hard to keep the 3-second gap, ends up almost fortuitously taking home fourth. Ger so close to taking fourth, but just misses out by I think a 100th of a second, in fifth place in the Mercedes. He'll be quite disappointed with that performance, I think, overall. Jesse takes home sixth. Very solid drive and very clean. Suzuki, starting from last, takes home 7th, Adrian 8th, Angpak 9th, Destroyer 10th, Turtle 11th, Philip 12th, and Dr. Fleek 13th. And I've been rushed through the end. But what a great session today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And as I said, stay tuned for 7 days' time. We'll be back for the Performance Racing League Premier tier. But don't leave the stream just yet, because in approximately a few minutes, we will be moving straight over to the Tier 1 race. We need to double check if there is a stream available for that. So we might not have a stream for that one. Worst case, we will then just have to move straight on to Tier 2, which is at 7 PM BST, which is in an hour and a half's time. But this is your commentator, Lucas Aid, and this is the Performance Racing League. Thanks so much.